to change our behavior, we have to change how we feel about our behavior. To change how we feel about our behavior, we have to change perception of what we're understanding is going on. To change that perception, we have to change the belief. If we want to change our world, we change our beliefs.
Welcome to the My Future Business Show, where we get you in front of your best audience and keep you there. Not only are we interviewing the biggest names in business to help you become even more successful, we're inviting you to book your spot on the show to help you grow your business. So at the end of the call, make sure you fill in the interview application form at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. Welcome back to the My Future Business Show. My name is Rick Nusky. I am your host, and as always, thank you very much for supporting the show. And if you're new here and this is your first time, you're in for a treat, especially on today's show, because I'm speaking with the wonderful Roddey McDonald. Welcome to the show, Roddey.
Thanks, Rick.
Yes, and
terrific to be here. I'm really excited. I've been looking forward to this.
This is an absolute pleasure of mine. I've certainly been checking out your background. There's a lot to share about your story, and in such a short amount of time, we've got so much to talk about. But for context, I'm going to share with the audience that we're going to talk about how to be the hero of your life, career, and business, and how living from your inner hero will unlock your creativity and create a life of impact. Now, we can unpack that in bit by bit, because there's certainly a lot involved in that. But before we do, it's customary for me to learn more about you. So I'm wondering if you could share with us where you're calling in from today, Roddey.
Yeah, I'm calling from Western Australia. I'm in Perth. So it's like 40 degrees today. So I've just got out of the pool.
That's a cool one. So what do you like about WA? Because I know, having been there a dozen or so times myself, that it is a beautiful part of the Australian territories.
Yeah, look, what I love about it is just that it's so friendly, and we just love the weather over here. It's not as friendly as it used to be, because we're getting all the lovely people from the east that have just changed that little bit of a vibe. It was a bit like Adelaide in some ways, where it's like a bit more of a country town compared to the other big cities.
Yeah, that's what you like to hear, isn't it? So are you a bit of a sports fan?
Yeah, I love my football. I love my Aussie rules football, that is.
Yes.
Yeah. West Coast Eagles.
Oh, yeah.
Not too sure about that other mob on the other side. I'd actually live in the Dockers area. Right?
Oh, no.
The training ground is not more than 2 minutes from my house.
Fantastic. Yeah, so that's been home forever, or?
Yes, I was born here, grew up here. I spent some time travelling and living in Kuala Lumpur, in Malaysia for about 3 years. But I flying in backwards and forwards. But my residency was there in Kuala Lumpur. I love that time there. But in general and mostly, yes, here.
That's very tropical heat up there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, had to get used to that one. I dropped a lot of weight when I was up there.
Beautiful. Oh, we can always
look. It's sort of like found me again back here in Perth.
So, well, look, at least life's treating you nicely. I'm wondering, before we jump into the core of the call, Roddey, if we can talk a little bit about what life was like for you when you were growing up.
Wow, that's an interesting question. Grew up with my grandparents living with me. At different times. It come from a very humble background. Father was a foundry worker, carpenter by trade, ended up in a foundry. Mum was always looking after my cousins, so I grew up around a lot of cousins and a lot of and nephews at that time as well. A heap of boys in our family. I think going right through the family, you're probably maybe lucky to find about 4 or 5 girls.
Oh, wow.
As compared to about 30 to 40 guys. So
yeah, wow.
The McDonald name will live on forever.
Forever and a day. As soon as you said foundry, that struck a chord with me. I spent many years in a metals foundry and, learning my trade. So that's some hard yakka.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you actually worked in it yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was an engineering patent maker.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was Dad was making the
dies
and the dies and everything from the patents.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, no, he's you can tell that he's a hard worker, because you have to work hard to get anywhere in that sort of game. That's for sure and certain. Now, do you have any downtime for yourself?
Yeah, I do actually, especially at the moment. The last couple of years, there's been a lot of downtime.
Too much, one would suggest.
No, it is. We've got a caravan, and so a lot of my work I do from home. So we travel in our caravan up and down the coast of Western Australia.
Yeah, hard
So
life.
quite often I actually just work from the van. So
Yeah,
it's a great
lovely.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, well, at least
Back
you
home at
can
the moment though.
at least you can do that. You can get around and enjoy yourself a bit. So when you're out and about, do you like to enjoy entertainment of any kind?
I'm more fishing, just sitting and relaxing, watching the sunsets, things like that. It's more like that.
Very nice,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. I often like to ask Roddy if it's important for you to take a breather and just take in the success that you've experienced in life. How important is that, do you think?
But absolutely, totally, and it's important. I mean, without taking in the successes that you've uh, rewards that you've actually made, that's the whole reason and the whole purpose. And as we're going to talk about in a little while, is actually finding a real presence for yourself. So being driven and doing things in other ways and around in life and running around doing things is not being yourself and not being present. So
Yeah.
I love sitting, watching the sunset, sitting at the beach, listening to the waves. We love being in nature,
Hmm.
just sitting there listening to the birds. So it's a recharging thing. In fact, when I get out of the city, Rick, it's like the air's open and I just feel so different. So
And you
it's a
become you
beautiful
again,
thing.
don't you?
Yeah, well, more of you sort of hear things differently. It's almost like the sound waves have got rid of and all the Wi-Fi waves have gone and you're just part of nature. And yeah, being in nature, I mean, that's who we are. We actually are part of nature. So
Absolutely.
connecting ourselves and grounding ourselves that way,
I'm a
it's
I'm a big bird
really,
fan myself. I love the blue wrens. I don't know if you have any
oh,
particular
okay.
likes, but it's a beautiful thing, and isn't it? Either early morning or late afternoon, listening to the birds and just taking a deep breath.
Yeah, yeah. We've got a favourite spot in the hills down south of near Margaret River, down that sort of a way. And they have a lot of little blue wrens down there. One
Oh wow!
particular place, it's just like there's 30, 40 of them just floating around
Oh,
in the bushes. So
I'll
yeah.
be lucky to see one now and then. We get a lot of kookaburras. Margaret
I got a
Rivers.
friend who actually is a photographer. He takes photos of wrens and he posts them on Wednesdays and he calls it, and he always says, "Happy Wrens Day, everybody."
Well, it's funny that you should say that because we're going to talk about the name Hump Day, and I often used to listen to a radio station, and every Wednesday, for some reason, they call it Hump Day, and I'm sure you have a different take and reasoning behind why you've called it that. So, before we do that, let's talk about your education and professional leadership background. Would you mind sharing?
Yeah, sure. My education was fairly. I was always a good student. I always got good grades with
Hmm.
everything that I did. I was highly competitive in football and in sports. In running, I achieved a lot in that area. So that competitive nature really drove me through a lot of my life. And leaving school, I just sort of took my time. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I just went from clerical work to different clerical work. Ended up in law, did a bit of law study, and actually quite love law.
Hmm.
In reading regulations and reading contracts, all that type of legal work,
Yep.
and that's actually worked with me for quite a bit of my work over life. Yeah, ended up in the airlines at Qantas. Worked my way up to middle management with in Perth. They wanted me to go somewhere else and go over to Sydney and go further, but
You know what? You just
even back
touched
then,
that.
I think I was trying to be myself and carve my own path. So, and I said, no, that's not what I want to do. You might be what you want to do, but that's not what I want to do.
You have a story to tell. I know that you went into leadership, but you always felt like a bit of an imposter. Tell us about that and why you felt that way.
How long have we got? What was it?
As long as we need. I need all
The
the
imposter
juice.
was, yeah, the imposter was pretty big in my life. It's like you just want to be someone, and that was what it was I was really driving to, I mentioned, and you asked the question, what was it like growing up? And it was
Mm.
a humble beginnings. And I remember sitting having a conversation with my sister when I was about 15 or 16, and nothing against my parents because they're beautiful people, but
Yep.
I just said I'm not going to end up like they are. And
Mm-hmm.
it was like that decision, and I never realized, but that decision drove a lot of things in my life for many, many years. And so I was a very driven person. I used to make sure that I was doing whatever I could to be successful, what I called successful.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was, uh, Rick, is that when you've got that sort of a drive and that sort of a desire, you don't realize what it is that's actually motivating you and what's driving you. And for me, it was that to get the success, I was using my personality, I thought I was actually pretty good back then as well, as far as looks. And I was pretty clever at being able to pick things up really quickly. So those were the things that I would use to make sure that people liked me, and to make sure that I could actually get what I wanted from people, from jobs, and it worked for a time. It really did work. But there was always something nagging in the back of my head, and it was like this little guy sitting on my shoulder saying, I hope they don't find out who you really are. and they're going to find out soon, Macca.
Yeah, like
So,
the good
it
devil
was
and the
like
bad
that
devil.
for a long time. I just felt like, God, I might be able to get away with this, and it was the thing that was driving. And so it wasn't until I had a spiritual change. I was becoming really, really unhappy with how I was doing this, and I was starting to be aware more and more of it. That I then turned inward and found that there was another person in there. It was almost like sitting at a play, looking at a stage and seeing this guy who's created this persona for himself and acting out all this stuff, and it's Roddy McDonald, but the real Roddy McDonald was actually sitting back here watching it and going, why is he doing all that crap?
Ah, yeah. Like that, you're
So
playing out
that
the
was
actor.
that was where the imposter got to. So, and I didn't like being an imposter anymore.
Tell me
So
something, Roddy. When you
yep.
dropped that persona and you forgot about the avatar and you slipped into your real self, as it were, did you feel a weight fall off of you?
Not to start with.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the hero's journey starts coming into it, Rick.
Right.
Because every hero goes, if you think of the superhero stories and that they come from humble beginnings usually, or they come from a beginning, and then they get some sort of a calling that they've got more to do and have more impact in their lives, and that's where I got to. But the time comes when you know you got to do it, but you think what the costs are to going ahead and making these changes.
Yeah.
Will people like me anymore? That was a massive one for me. How will I get what I want? Will I be a person who doesn't have drive anymore? You know, all these things that I was just me. So yeah, in the end, the weight has dropped off. But to start with, no, not really.
Not really. Wow, that's actually...
It was very scary for me to think, if I make these changes, and this is where you see this, the heroes. This is why it's so real for me, because I watch these movies and I see the journey these heroes take, and it's just like that for all of us. You end up in a leadership role, and you're supposed to be leading these teams, but the imposters sitting on your shoulders saying, who do you think you are to lead these people? You know, you can't even connect with your wife at home.
Yeah.
Or your children are running amok, you know, and then you come to work and you try to be this all great hero. So, but you don't know any different. So,
and I can see that,
yes,
you know. Eventually it did turn it, but it wasn't an instantaneous transformation, which was quite shocking to realise. I thought it would have been, you know, like you make that decision, the next moment everything's, you know, good because my psychology or the mindset's changed. But with mindset, how much of a part does that play in this?
Well, that's everything. It's the mind. The mind is where the powerhouse is. So we have three levels of mind. There's the conscious mind, where we make all our planning and all our decisions, and we do the things that we're going to do every day.
Mm-hmm.
We do the planning and the goal setting from our conscious mind. Our subconscious mind is the powerhouse. Really, it's the driving force of our beliefs and what it is that we believe. So, and then we have our superconscious mind, which is that part of us that is all knowing. In fact, that's to me is where the hero really is actually connected to that part of us that is all knowing. But it's the subconscious mind that is where the beliefs that we have drive us. So growing up for me, I remember I said a little while back, I don't want to ever turn out like my parents.
Yes.
That was a belief that I embedded into my life, and that was the thing that drove me to do the things and be and make sure that everybody liked me, because I was never going to be like my parents.
Yeah.
I was not going to end up in that humble beginning. And so when I came to this, when I started working through all of this and becoming clear on psychotherapy and how to think correctly and understanding energy psychology, where the energy that we have that comes and affects our behavior. So if you work backwards, if you say we want to change our behavior, to change our behavior we have to change how we feel about our behavior. To change how we feel about our behavior we have to change the belief and the perception of what we're understanding is going on. To change that perception we have to change the belief. So it's like a process, a chain reaction. So starting with our beliefs drive everything about what we do. And if we want to change our world, we change our beliefs.
You change your beliefs, and it's a knock-on effect, isn't it? Now, you touched on the word therapy. I'm wondering if you could share your experience with Bowen Therapy in particular.
Didn't think you were going to ask about that one. That's an interesting question. Well, I have a real firm belief, and it's from my experiences. My beliefs in this is that our bodies can heal itself in every area of its life. So our minds can heal our bodies. And Bowen Therapy, when I first went into it, I actually realised the practitioner, all he does is a couple of moves and sits back and waits, and he allows the body to make the adjustments.
Really?
So if you don't know what Bowen Therapy is, it's just a simple movement of the fascia. So we have our bones and the skeleton. Mm-hmm. Above that we have the muscles and all the tendons. Mm-hmm. But then above that we have the skin, and in between the skin and the muscles it's called fascia.
Right.
And so that's what Bowen Therapy does. It actually just moves the fascia that creates an opening where the body can actually just heal itself.
That is fascinating.
It's an astounding practice.
Yeah, absolutely. No, well, look, I've heard it before, but I've never really talked much about it because I really didn't understand it. So thank you for providing that little step of insight there. I wonder, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but where did the name Hump Day Heroes come from?
Exactly that. Tell me, dude, when you were working, and even now, and even if there's the viewers, if you think about your week from Monday to Sunday, what day are you looking forward to the most?
Yeah, well, I could
Day.
Yeah, I could lie and say it was Friday, but I reckon you're right, because I always did listen to the radio and go, yep, that's the measure of success. Yeah. I'm at the peak of the week.
Yeah, everybody says it. We've just got to get through to the Hump Day. For myself and my son, because I'm in practice with my son.
Yes, tell us about that. Tell us about what it's like to work with your son. That's amazing.
I love it.
Yeah.
He got me into this.
Is David? Is his name David?
Alex.
My apologies.
Yep. I call him Al Chemo. That's his superhero name.
And what's his superhero power?
He's an amazing listener, and he has incredible insight. The things that he picks up and sees and is quite astounding. And his memory, oh my goodness, his memory is like nothing on earth. He was always a child who sat and did not. He was just very quiet, hardly heard boo out of him. And then later on he'd ask questions, and you go, oh goodness, he was just sitting there playing with his toys. So he's an incredible listener.
Yep.
Has an incredible memory, and he has amazing insight.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You don't often hear. Well, you do sometimes hear about father-son combos in business, and sometimes there's a struggle. But I think you've got a really good dynamic going on there. So congratulations for that. I see you're on the website there. You can just tell you got a really strong bond, and I think that's everything. Having two sons myself. Now, if I'm a leader and I'm an imposter, I'm just using a bit of a fake case study here, and that's me. I go to work and I know, what, this imposter's sitting on my shoulder, like we talked about, Roddy. How can I unlearn the things that I've learned so that I do feel more confident in myself and I reclaim my inner hero? What is the process that you would take me through?
I love the words you used. You've obviously really read what we were doing there.
Mm-hmm.
It's about reclaiming the hero, the within. Look, everybody has a hero, and everybody within themselves. We're born with stupendous promise of staggering potential within of us all, and we have this greatness, and so it's actually really always there. But where we feel like we're an imposter is because we've actually got all these other voices going on in our head most of the day. We're actually trying to emulate someone else. When you don't know who you are, you actually try to emulate other people, or you've role modeled someone else to do something this and this.
Mm-hmm.
You might have a leader who's actually trying to push you to be more like him because that's what he wants in his team. So to really start becoming more of your own person, it takes you to become far more present. And we've got a beautiful saying, and it was actually not mine. I heard it from a guy by the name of Jim Quick, and who's a super reader sort of a guy. He's got a hero in his own right.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, to have a powerful presence, you need to be powerfully present. And to me, it's about that. It's about becoming really, really powerfully present in yourself. And to do that, it means when you do that, it means all the other people's programmings, other people's energies, other people's ideas, their opinions, the way that they live their lives, their successes, that we take on in our journey to try and be a success for ourselves. We think that's the right way to. Heck, Rick, what about the marketing? Just even the way that marketing and the TV pushes us now. We become so confused about needing to be someone else or do someone else's way. If you're going to be successful, follow me and do my way. Well, we say, hang on a minute, you have the superconscious person living inside you. The superconscious is the person who knows everything. You have all the wisdom, the knowledge, and the superpowers within yourself. Just don't realize it and just don't turn inward for it.
Do you remember
So
a
the
time,
more
Roddy?
that you have you in your life, the less you have of everyone else in your life.
You made me think about growing up. I remember a time, I'm maybe sure you do, that there wasn't this influence of social media, there wasn't mobile phones, and you created your own destiny as a child. That seems to be suppressed nowadays, doesn't it? It's wrong for you to have a point of view, almost. What do you think of that?
Yeah, that's right. So you suppress your own voice because everybody's got an opinion out there. There's no more reporting of things. It's actually just everybody's opinion, and whoever speaks the loudest, whatever group speaks the loudest, they're the ones that actually get heard and get listened to the most. But that's where we come. And this is a part of becoming powerfully present, is actually knowing your own personal power. I mean, imagine if you actually had a belief, I am strong and know who I am, and I am happy to speak my truth. Imagine if you had that sort of a belief that you just lived. You didn't have to think about it. You didn't have to force it. You just lived it, as opposed to a subconscious belief that every time I speak, I get shot down, or my voice doesn't matter. So as a leader, if that's how it is, you're going to get up and actually speak with fear and trepidation, or you speak in a way that is where people are just going to override you, or they're just going to look at you and think, well, who are you trying to fool with this?
Or politically correct, where you curb your real feelings about a topic.
Yeah, correct. And there's a really cool guy to follow if you want to see someone in
Absolutely.
action, and that's a guy by the name of Chris Voss,
Chris
who's
Voss.
a ex-FBI negotiator,
Hmm.
terrorist negotiator, and the way he speaks, he completely turns around people who are aggressive and who are really pushing against the norm.
Hmm.
So I think it's just learning skills to be able to think through things. But for me, it's because I was actually not someone who enjoyed conflict.
No.
If you've got a belief that I've got to actually make everybody like me, there's no way in the world I'm going to have conflict with someone. So I'm going to shy away and just go, oh yeah, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, and
Yep.
then try and turn it around. So I've had to do a lot of work on myself in this area,
Mm.
and now I've actually found my own voice, and I'm comfortable speaking it. I choose my battles in times.
Of
It's not
course.
like I go in there with all guns blazing and I'm aggressive, because that's not what it's about.
No.
But it's knowing and having a boundary that within my little boundary, I am 100% myself, and outside that boundary, the whole world can be 100% themselves.
So when you talk about mantras and positive affirmations and daily affirmations and that sort of thing, is that something that you would teach the people that you work with?
Yeah, well, it's a big part of it.
Mm.
We do use a process where we people become whole brained about. I don't know if you ever heard of um, the whole brain dominance
Mm.
way of thinking.
Yep.
So what happens is when we have a situation, Mum yells at us when we're a little kid a lot and says, "You naughty kid, you're always making me angry."
Hmm.
So all of a sudden, little Johnny feels like he's just not good enough, and he's the reason Mum's always angry. So he takes that on board. By the way, that's shame. So we've just accepted shame from in a way, and believe it or not, we that belief that we're not good enough and that we're always to blame. Then, in fact, I've got a client that I've been working with, and he's going through exactly this. That he's brought all of that into his first marriage that's broken down,
Oh
and he's
wow.
bringing it into his second marriage. So it's
Deep
anybody who
seated.
says that the subconscious doesn't remember anything, he remembers everything.
Everything. Yeah.
So what we do is bring and we bring the client into a place of being whole brained about how they viewed that situation, and then while they're in that whole brain situation, they then recite the new belief that they actually want.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful. It's very quick. It's very easy. Everybody that sits through a session with us goes, "Wow, that was so simple and so easy." Yeah,
Roddy,
well,
do you
it
find
is. It's
that?
just getting to the root of it all that actually is the tricky bit for most people.
I had a
Asking
question come
themselves
up.
questions about why am I don't like doing this. Asking themselves questions about why am I doing this is always a good question.
I had a thought come to my mind, and I didn't want to let it go. Do you find yourself building actual friendship relationships and becoming more of an accountability partner in the work that you do?
Yeah, well, I call it professional friendship.
Yep.
So we have a professional friendship with the people that we work with, and yes, we do, because we get to be we're the people who support them. We're the people who believe in them. I got a lovely thing that I always tell the clients, Rick, is that whatever you're doing, it doesn't matter, because I'm only taking instructions from the future self that you've told me you want to be.
Ah,
And I listen to that person, not what you're telling me now.
yeah, that
So
transformation.
our role is just to listen, to help them through the quagmire, to find the reasons why they're getting stuck, and work through those reasons for being stuck, and hold the vision for them and believe in them even when they don't.
So with this format, is that when you do your Reclaim Your Hero workshop? Is that your modus operandi?
That was the Reclaim the workshop. We actually was a tester, to be
Right.
honest,
Yep.
because we wanted to find out where people sat with the villains that they might come up against. So, and that was what the workshop was all about, was actually understanding, hang on a minute, I have a hero within and I want to go on that journey, but I've got all these blockages. And we played around that there's a Mr. Right as a villain. Always need to be right. And if I'm not right, I've got to be right because I don't like being wrong. And there's always reasons behind that as well, and beliefs. There was Mr. Never. I'm never going to do that again. And I get stuck in there. So because I'm never going to do that again, I'm never going to be like my parents, for instance, like I just said earlier on. And that stayed with me, and it stopped me from actually being able to move forward because I was always reverting back to that. And that's where, so there was Mr. Right, Mr. Never, Mr. Perfectionist.
Oh yes.
Had to be everything had to be perfect. So these were the villains. So in superhero language and stories, you see the superhero deciding to go forward and go off and use his powers and actually do something to save his victims. But he meets all these encounters, all these villains along the way, and these are the villains that are trying to stop the hero from making it through his journey. So that was what we were playing around with, and it was great. We didn't have a lot of people come onto it, but we were happy with that because it was about trialing it. And the people that came on it, they had some pretty amazing shifts, so we were blown away by it.
You know, you've learned something.
Yeah, we have a mind to actually do that again, Rick.
Yeah, that's a great story. Thank you very much for sharing the things that you've learned along the way. Now, I'm a big fan of building community that relates to the things you do. You've got what you've called the safe zone. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, every hero goes back into his lair, if you like. But most times, if we go along a lot, when we're trying to be an individual and trying to do something that is for ourselves and who we are, we quite often feel like we're just going crazy. And that was my story, to be honest with you as well, was the journey that I was taking and going down was actually a journey of discovery and completely thinking differently to the way I'd already related to myself. And I had all my family around me were all saying, what are you doing? You know, this is not right. You know, you can't be doing, because when you change, it actually changes the people around you as well and how they relate to you. So we wanted to create a safe place where people could come and just get out their craziness, the crazy place. That they wanted to where they can actually express how they're feeling about situations, and be a little bit vulnerable as well, because mostly you don't get a place to actually do that.
No,
you don't. It normally is, I'm really misunderstood. I'm trying to be this person, but I'm being misunderstood. And often it's misunderstanding for yourself as well, because you don't really know why you're wanting to do this, but at the same time, you're trying to achieve a goal, but you're getting stymied and you're getting blocked. And so we create that safe space where we can just work through those
issues,
the stuckness.
Yep.
And the energy, use the energy and the beliefs that we actually do and help you work through so that you can actually charge up and go back out to the world.
That's fantastic.
Getting over that hump.
Yeah, that hump day thing, and that's where it all sort of ties back together. Now, given that we're at the pointy end of the call, just briefly share with us the Hump Day Heroes weekly show. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was Alex and I just wanted to start talking ourselves. We really didn't care whether anybody came on the show. It was just for us to get out. For ourselves, get it out of our heads and actually start speaking out what it was and what it is we're about and what we've learnt along our journey and why our journey is important. So it was about moving, who are we, speaking about who we are, speaking about how it is that we now relate in the world and how we now view the world. And so that's
what it is. That's what it is. I love it.
And then if people resonated with us, which it's been up and down, but we're still really keen to get that going again. We've been really undergoing a complete a focus since Christmas time. We haven't geared it back up again. We're about to.
Excellent.
So we're putting together packages, putting together processes that we're going to, so that people can see exactly this is how you're going to go the journey from point A to point B, and this are the results you'll end up having.
I love the energy. I love the energy of your call. I love the energy of you and Alex working together. It's magical. Now, most importantly, when people want to connect with you, they want to start talking with you, and they're asking for your help, where are they going to find you, and what is the process?
Hump Day Heroes is the website, www.humpdayheroes.com.au. The emails are on there, or they can just call me direct. So it's as simple as that, really. Yep.
Fantastic. Well, look, everybody who's on the show.
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. Roddy McDonald on Facebook, and I'm on and Roddy F McDonald on LinkedIn.
Beautiful. Absolutely going to make sure, Roddy, that all of those links back to you and Alex are on the website below this post, no matter where you find this. For anybody who's listening today, what a great call this has been. You definitely want to go down to humpdayheroes.com.au, touch base with Roddy and his wonderful son, Alex. They're doing some great work. They're just about to ramp things up. And with all that being said, Roddy, I've had a fantastic time talking with you. Thank you so very much for joining me on the show today.
Mate, you're a hero in your own right with the way you ask the questions. You're a really cool guy.
Thanks very much, Roddy.
Okay, cheers.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the call, then make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, share us with your friends, and book your spot on the show at myfuturebusiness.com/interviews. And if you're looking for solutions that will help grow your business, then visit myfuturebusiness.com/shop.